Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is Real Talk with Coach Sherri. Take a walk with me. I know a lot of you are in your home. You might be working out inside on the treadmill, on the elliptical, on the rowing machine, or with your weights, and you may not have adequate space to go outside. So walk with me. I'm walking in my neighborhood. It's the end of the day. It is Monday and it is about 77 degrees out here. It's amazing. I'm walking with my daughter. I just came up a hill. That's why I'm breathing so hard. But yeah, I needed to get out, stretch my legs, get some fresh air. We are all in this together, you guys. The topic of this video is going to be tough times don't last, but tough people do. Right now, as a city, as a state, as a country, as the world, we are experiencing tough times with this coronavirus. And it's so much uncertainty right now. Every day I'm hearing of other people, new people losing their jobs, not being able to provide for their families day to day, experiencing hardships that they've never imagined. I mean, just a month ago, 2 months ago, people were getting new jobs, interviewing for new opportunities, possibly moving across country, moving to other countries, not expecting a situation like this. This situation is beyond any of our wildest dreams. We are in a tough time. But you know what? Being in it is one thing. Getting through it is another. Regardless of what we do or don't do, we are going to get through this. So we all need to be tough in times such as these so that we don't get stuck, get left behind, be forgotten. We need to be remembered for what we did in March, April, May, June, all the months following of 2020. Are we allowing this to paralyze us? Are we allowing this to stunt our growth, stop our innovation? If anything, we should be coming up with ideas that will help us soar in times such as these. If anything, we should be focusing on solutions. If your business is a restaurant, I was listening to another YouTuber today talking about restaurants and how they're going to have to reshape, reform their businesses, do things different. What was normal to us is going to change. It's going to have to be new. So as a restaurant owner, you have to start thinking about how are you going to provide food and service to your customers? What can you do in a time when dining inside of a restaurant is prohibited? How are you going to be flexible? How are you going to adjust? How are you going to pivot? How are you going to thrive? We have to be tough. There's a lot that we can do. We just have to get our heads out of the clouds, get our mind off of what's really going on around us right now, and focus on what's yet to come. Things were invented because enduring times like these, things were invented to make life more efficient, to make travel much easier. Just think, it was travel by horse and carriage. Then as people moved further and further away and traveling became challenging, the car was invented. Then as people continued to move further and further away, the airplane was invented. What type of inventions are going to come out of this moment, out of this tough time? I can only imagine. How are you going to be tough during this time? What thoughts and ideas do you have? What inventions can you think of that will be part of the solution? All types of businesses are going to have to be done differently. The hair business, the nail business. Oh, my nails are really suffering. Oh, the massage business. Things that are high touch. Those types of businesses may find themselves changing in a way they never imagined. Welcoming them to the 21st century. It's going to be interesting, even though things are going to be more streamlined. Hi. They're going to be high touch, but less touch. I'm here walking with my oldest daughter, my center child, my center legacy. Before she went off to college as a freshman, we used to walk in the neighborhood together, and I enjoyed it. So when I told her I was walking today, she decided to join me, and I appreciate her for that. She's walking behind me though, slightly, I guess trying to keep that social distance. You guys, this is a tough time, but tough times don't last. Tough people do. Please leave a comment below. How are you being tough during this time? How do you want to become tough during this time? What are some of your thoughts? How are you pivoting? How are you moving and adapting to this new normal? What are some challenges that you're facing in your own career? I know for me, especially with training, I'm going to have to figure out which online training will best benefit my participants. I do a lot of soft skills training for the workforce, and that type of training promotes a lot of conversation. It's very interactive. It doesn't have to be high touch. However, I make it that way. So I'm trying to find an online platform that I can keep that same feeling, keep that same experience for my participants, so that they can, oh, that's a very nice waterfall, so that they can end up with the same types of results that my previous participants had experienced. It's really going to be important because the workforce development soft skills training that I provide them, it really sets them up to have success in the workplace. And with the programs, such as an apprenticeship program and an internship program, I don't deal with young high school students or middle school students. I deal with grown people who often are fathers and mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers. However, a lot of times in the positions that they are put into, the organization that they end up working with and for, it is their first career. It is a career, not a job opportunity. So they are doing things differently. They have to communicate differently. They have to show up differently. They have to believe in the value that they bring. They have to be willing to learn, willing to take initiative, willing to be a team player. They need to be able to receive feedback, give feedback. They need to be able to implement new information. They also need to be flexible. And by going through the soft skills training, they're able to do all those things successfully. So it is very important for me at this time to figure out which platform I will be using moving forward. If I have to use an online way of teaching the soft skills, I have no problem doing it. I'm actually very excited. That's going to be a new skill for me as well. But I just want to make sure that I'm able to capture what needs to be captured and that they are able to get and receive what they need to receive. This is a tough time, but tough times don't last. Tough people do. How do you want to be remembered going through this time? What do you want to be known for? What type of impact do you want to make? I always look at this with all this time that we have. You know, we're not cluttered amongst a lot of people. There's not a lot of distraction. This is when the best ideas, if you let it, can emerge. But you have to let it. You have to embrace this change, not fight it. Fighting it in this type of situation does not make you tough. It'll actually weaken you. So to not fight it, it doesn't always mean to join it. It just means to come up with ideas to make it better. We are in a technology time right now, and we have been for over 20 years. Well over 20 years, but 20 years for how we know it to be. And I don't think we've all embraced it fully. You know, we have some platforms and we have been just using it in the most basic way. And now we're starting to really realize, and people are playing tennis. It's interesting, but they took the basketball net and backboard down, but they left the tennis nets up. That's interesting. Yep, this is my community. We see what sport means the most to them. Because I was told that tennis was also a sport that required you to have constant contact with other people. And it was not encouraged. But in my neighborhood, it is. Interesting, right? Yeah, so we have some programs that we use, and we're just figuring out that we haven't been utilizing it to its capacity. For instance, Microsoft. We have Microsoft 360, and we're here purchasing platforms to hold group meetings and things, and We could have always been using the Microsoft, we could have been using the Microsoft Teams. And that's free if you have Microsoft 360. So we're looking more into how to use that. We're going to have to download it and use that moving forward, and possibly using the other platforms that we have a paid membership for, using that for our training, our off-site training that we are be doing with participants and other internal employees. So we're still in the process of figuring that out too. And let's see. Yep. And if it wasn't for these tough times, we may not find ourselves doing this. But we are, because we are tough people. And tough times don't last, but tough people do. So I know there were a lot of changes that were happening within the city, within the state, within the organization. Hi, good. And people were not very well pleased. You know, they were kind of fighting it and saying how the changes weren't going to last. And that, you know, don't worry, they're always trying to do something new and it'll go back to the way it used to be. So they were just sitting back, waiting for things to go back to the way they used to be. But they had another thing coming that they really weren't expecting. Things are not only not going back to the way they used to be, but they're going to be propelled even that much further in change than they had even anticipated. Because now we're being thrust into it. So instead of skilling up, figuring it out, trying to secure their place, the people that sat back and just waited to see things fail so they can go back to the way they used to be are now finding themselves really in limbo, finding themselves really out of sorts. That's why it's important, no matter what, to always stay relevant. No matter what, to always know there's something next and want to know what's next. Be part of what is next. Insert yourself, because the invitation is not always going to be delivered. If you don't speak up for yourself, who will? Some people are fortunate to have people speak up for them and bring them along. You know, some people are just brought along and you don't even know why they're brought along. But you can't always think that that's going to be available for you. So if you know that maybe people are intimidated by what you know, if you know that change is happening and people are not fitting you into that equation, you have to insert yourself. You have to communicate differently. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can learn. So sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, even if you feel like you know better. I like that water landscape item on their yard. So stay relevant. Stay in the mindset of being willing to learn. No one has arrived. So even though you may know things, you can always learn more. You can always share what you know too. That's most helpful. If you know of a better way, don't sit back and wait for the way that they're doing it to fail. Speak up. Communicate what you know. And you don't have to do it in a way that will belittle someone, that will make them feel like you know, it's your way or the highway. There's different ways you can communicate it. So during this time is a great time to practice doing that. Check out webinars. Check out online courses. There's Allison.com. They have free courses. There's, I forgot. But I know LinkedIn Learning is another platform where you can take courses and, get like really quick certifications or just gain new knowledge on different things, be it technology, business, entrepreneurship, human resources, marketing, business, all different types of subjects are available for you to learn. Be open and willing to learn, because tough times don't last. And after this time, you might be surprised. Someone may ask you, okay, you worked from home. What did you accomplish? What did you do? How did you grow? What can you now contribute to the new way of things? I think that's a question that a lot of people are going to be asked. And even if their job has been safe during this time, they may find that it's not so safe after this time if they are not able to give solid answers of what they were doing during this time, during this tough time. Because tough times don't last, but tough people do. So, how are you going to last during this time? If this is going to end at the end of the month of April, I say if, and you're asked, so what did you do with your time? How did you become better? What are your thoughts on how we should move forward? What will you say? If you're not used to working from home, I highly recommend that you develop a schedule and try and follow that schedule and be as committed to it as you can. Be diligent in what you do. Be purposeful in what you do. Calendar out your day. If you use Outlook for your company, calendar your day. Let people know when you're available. As you complete tasks, write them down. Because trust, you'll find that you will be doing more than you expected. And you don't want to forget the things that you did do, the conversations you've had. One of my team members told me that she was interested in doing some training this week and, getting that under her belt, some professional development training. And she asked me what were my suggestions. Oh, that's a pretty house with the green. She's relatively new to the area. She's been here less than a year. I think June or July will be a year for her. And what we do requires a lot of collaboration with external partners. And she's made a few connections, but not as nearly as many as she needs to in order to help support some of our programs. So my recommendation to her, in addition to the professional development training, was to reach out to the contacts that she has recently made. Reach out to them, check in on them, form a relationship with them. Because when this wasn't happening, when we weren't in this tough time, her time was very limited to be able to follow up and follow through with her new contacts. So during this tough time, I think it would be important to really focus on the things you didn't have a lot of time for, but things that you know would be beneficial, things that you know will add value in the long run. So when I shared that idea with her, she thought it was a good idea, and that's something she's going to work on. It may be out of her comfort zone. Not everyone enjoys networking. Not everyone enjoys forming new relationships, and I get that. I just so happen to love it, but I get it. But that's how you know you're growing, when you do things that you're uncomfortable with. So in this tough time, what are you uncomfortable with? For you to be a tough person to last, it's going to be important that you start doing things that you're uncomfortable with. Right now, we're all uncomfortable with everything that we're doing. It's all so new. There's not one person living today in this world that has been through anything like this. There's not one person that's living today that can really and truly give us sound advice off of experience. They may have experienced it locally, they may have experienced it regionally, but this is worldwide. This is going to change the way we do business. This is going to change our finances, our education system, how we communicate, how we respond to each other, how we interact with each other, how we eat, how we take care of our health. It's going to change a lot. And so I don't know of anyone, and if you do know, please let me know who they are, because I would love to talk to them. Know of anyone that has been through exactly anything like this. So that's also challenging for our leadership in businesses and organizations. You know, they're sitting at a table and they all are supposed to strategize and come up with solutions, and they're looking at each other and no one has the answers. You know, all the answers are a shot in the dark. All the answers are prototypes. So we all just have to do our best. This is really expanding our brains. That's another reason why I love it, because I know so much growth, if you let it, will come from this. I know my team was saying, talking about the interaction that we have with each other and how our discussions are so much deeper and richer than they ever been. And I've been with this team for 2.5 years. And that's saying a lot. And when I say that's saying a lot, I don't mean that necessarily in a positive way. But that is saying a lot for how our team was being managed, was conducted prior to this tough time. So, I think a lot of managers are going to be reflecting on how they used to run business, because it wasn't really supportive. It wasn't thought-provoking. It wasn't as think tank as they thought it was. And this tough time is making everyone realize that we have to have more meaningful communication, especially when we're in a team, in order to accomplish real goals. This is a real goal. How are we going to get back on our feet? How are we going to get through this? How are we going to pivot? How are we going to stay afloat? And I know that this tough time is one of the biggest goals that we've ever had to deal with, but we need to kind of take everything seriously that we do. And maybe more ideas, more innovation will come from it. I think people were getting discouraged. I wasn't. Luckily, my programs were able to start, finish, start again, have success. But a lot of people have programs and ideas that they share, and everyone appears to love it and then nothing comes of it. And that becomes very discouraging because, it's like I spent a lot of time doing research. I spent a lot of time putting together this proposal. I spent a lot of time connecting with people that were willing to do it, that are already doing it, that wanted to do it with us. And I can't. So that has been something that was discouraging. Whereas now, because, we're think tankers now, we need all hands on deck. We need all ideas. We need innovation. And so when people speak now about their ideas, people listen intently, take them serious, and see how they can make it happen. And that is so much more empowering and fulfilling at the end. It makes people want to go over and beyond their call of duty. So we are in a tough time, ladies and gentlemen, but tough times don't last. Tough people do. Please reflect on this walk and talk and determine how you're going to be tough during and after this time. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in, for walking and talking with me. And I don't know if I'll be able to do it tomorrow because it's going to rain, so I'll come back to you in another form. Maybe I'll go into my car. I haven't been in it in a while, so I'll go into my car and tune in and check in with you guys there. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you got any nuggets from this video, please be sure to like. If you know anyone that also needed to hear what I discussed in this video, be sure to share this video with them. If you're not already part of my team, I would love to have you. So please be sure to subscribe and ring that bell for notification when I record another video. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay safe. And until next time, this has been Real Talk with Coach Sherri.